so interesting. I'm having to. I'm spamming this nightmare dungeon, which I feel like most people would just like go to the tier under, but I think this might help me get top on the leaderboards. And I need this. Huh? Well, you just get more rewards. There's like a golden statue instead of like a blue statue, which would be massive. Yeah, so I'm trying to get those as I grind out another statue that I'm working on now anyway. But this boss, I ain't gonna lie, is insanely tough. But he's pretty easy now. Now that I'm like hard out skill him. It's just his mech is kind of buggy since I'm on ping. But I think I've solved it. Damn. Yo, what is good, guys? It is your boy Wally J, and I'm coming back to you guys with another Aion 2 video. I'm coming first. I just want to apologize. I recognize my first Zikeal video did not get posted with the correct level of resolution, so I'm reposting it. But obviously, I do not have that original footage. I did get rid of it as soon as I made it. So I do apologize for that. So I'm gonna go ahead, kind of talk to you guys about how to beat Zikeals. Obviously, I am a lot stronger than what I was. And I'm actually at a spot now where I really just farm Zikeals for nightmare coins. But I still want to give you guys the tips, the tricks, and what it looks like to be able to beat him. So just some things to keep in mind as you are getting into Zikeals is you do want to make sure that your defensive stats are looking good. And what I mean by that is you want to have a decent amount of evasion, and you also want to have a decent amount of block. Block is just straight up damage mitigation, and evasion is just going to completely miss those things. So this is very, very important to be able to have, to be able to see, and it's just going to help you out drastically as you play the game. So hopefully this helps you guys out. This is something that you're going to be able to solve through pet farming. So one thing that I have started to learn and know, and this is something that I did not have in the original video, is how important pet farming is. If you guys have not gone and checked that video out, I highly recommend going to check that out and just getting a little bit of knowledge and ultimately what that looks like. We have obviously had a huge so let's go ahead and get into just the skills and really what is going to help you out, and really just a general kind of PvE-esque build for Chanter. Since obviously making the video before, my skills have changed. I do plan to give you guys an updated video of my class, where I'm at, my armor, my skills, especially coming off of the update that we've got. So stay tuned for that. That is definitely what's going to be coming out next, especially since the huge pet farm update, the huge just updating everything. Like I said, I've gotten some pretty big things, and importantly. But what I want to mention is first thing that's going to help you out is being able to have this 7% absorb HP on your autos. This is super important because it's just going to help you sustain. Obviously, you have recuperation. If you don't have recuperation level 16, this is an absolute must. If you do have it 16, maybe you can switch this off, but I felt like just having the extra sustainability is going to help out drastically, and it's really there to help negate the bleed. Zikeal does inflict a lot of bleed. I recently was able to get this to 16, so I'm using the chain skill for the extra damage. But if I was not at 16, I would be using the -1 second on Spinning Strike cooldown. Spinning Strike is a move that hits extremely hard, and does a good amount of stagger damage. So it's really good to have this up, and it does have one of the longest cooldowns in terms of your like active skill kit. Another item that I would highly recommend to use is actually switching on. Currently, I have this as more of a PvP setup, but I would definitely have 50% chance to activate Heat Wave Blow. You really don't want to be relying on trying to get a block from Zikeals just because he can do way too much damage. So you want to have a way to be able to reproc your Heat Wave Blow and be able to do massive damage that way. Um, so yeah, obviously having the chance to reset this on block if you get it to 16 is huge, but these don't really matter too much. The point is you want this to proc as many times as possible, and the primary way that you're going to be doing that is by using Rushing Smash. Next, there really shouldn't be anything with Impact Roll Crush. The only thing I would say to have is make sure to have the chain skill. The real two skills, or the next skill I'll talk about is Tremor Crush. One thing that I think that will help you out, especially very early on, is to actually get the 300 stamina on hit. I do use the sprint mantra, and I do have it level 10, so I do get that natural stamina regen and that movement speed, and that's going to be very important for getting through Zikeal, because there's just his hardest part, as y'all kind of have seen through the clip, is effectively when he's doing his huge mech, where you have to follow his slashes, and I would say being on ping, you do need to move a little bit early, so really look at when he's swinging his sword and try to time it off of that rather than when you see the floor go purple. But having this 300 stamina on hit is going to be massive because it's going to allow you to keep your stamina up so that you can continue to sprint. The last thing you want to happen during Zikeals is you get to a part where you've been dodging, he then hits his mech, and you have no stamina, and now you're struggling because you cannot actually sprint. Your character can't sprint across. They're just going to be too slow to do so. So this is something that also is going to be able to help you out. And then for recuperation, like I said, you definitely want to have this level 16. It's probably one of the #1 skills to get to 16, but if you don't have that, I do just recommend getting the cooldown and duration items, just because this is going to help you be as sustainable as possible and run that way. And lastly, this is just something to note, anytime you're doing any PvE, your damage as a enchanter goes way up as soon as you recognize what you can do, right? It's actually kind of interesting. I guess they've switched this now. I do remember that in the patch notes, but they have switched this will happen now. What is it when you can now proc this on bosses. This used to be a active you had to choose, which is funny because they said, oh well, this is a PvE game, but it's in order to play PvE effectively, there were a lot of skills that you actually had to spec in order to do PvE damage. So it's nice that they have made this change so that every time we go into it, you don't have to switch this up. And honestly, I may start changing this to a mobile skill. Usually you're obviously, when you're hitting this, the person you're hitting is going to be CC, they're going to be down. But being able to start hitting these and run towards your opponent to then be able to hit a wave blow if you're out of range of that wave blow could be massive for damage. So this is something to like start to consider. I haven't really played around with this, but so I guess kind of miss on that. Same thing with this one. This one did used to have a specialization where you had to spec in to the chance to hit this on bosses, and it does obviously do stagger damage. I am really thankful that they have decided to go ahead and put this in, because it's just something that should have been there in the first place. So hopefully this helps you guys out. If you guys didn't have this, you were missing out on a lot of damage and a lot of stagger. This move hits insanely hard because you're always going to make sure you get the extra multi-hit. It is like a 20-30k hitting move a lot of times. So especially on these bosses, especially when you're critting. So just something to consider as you're going in there. Really, really love that they have made this change, and I'm happy that I'm actually able to make this video now after this update, because having that specialization is never, it was kind of dumb, if you want to be honest, in my opinion, and I'm glad that that is now different. Another thing to kind of keep in mind, something that's going to help you out, is obviously making sure that you have really, really a decently high blessing of life. This is going to help increase your heals, your max health, and then also having a decently leveled cross guard. Right, if you are going to be blocking when you do get hit, and your block is a high enough stat threshold, you will be able to start healing and mitigating some of this damage. So that's going to be very important. Um, that's kind of really it. The other ones I think are all okay. But yeah, they're not going to be the difference makers on whether or not. I mean, maybe protection circle, but really you should be dodging mechs as much as possible. In terms of stigmas, what stigmas should you be using? I highly recommend using sprint mantra. The extra movement speed is going to help you drastically to work through that mech that Zikeal does. Having the extra stamina regen obviously is just a nice bonus. You really do not use this for the heals. It is really a stamina and a movement speed buff. The heals are a nice bonus, but even with the recent update, the extra, like the level 15, it only doubles this healing when you're under 50%, not actually all incoming healing, which is kind of tough. Like it just does not make this skill still worth getting past level 10. But I do think having the natural stamina regen increases is massive. Um, Next, obviously you should have on undefeated mantra. This is something that just everybody should have. If you are a chanter, this is the first thing you need to be getting to 20 as quickly as possible. That's just is what it is. When the next I would say you need is fracturing blow. This is going to be your dash. It's going to be another stagger ability. It's going to do 40 stagger every minute. So it's pretty much on par with obliterate. That's why a lot of people are dropping obliterate and really just using the fracturing blow, because this excels both in PvE and PvP. And now you're able to just have a better synergizing skill, especially with your stigma shards, so you don't kind of feel like you're wasting them. However, if you do have obliterate, I would say you want to be running obliterate and both, so that you can get the max stagger damage as possible, and that's just going to help facilitate breaks, and being able to just spam Gus Rampage. If you don't, I think impending authority can work fine. But the thing is, you're never ever trying to just sit there and soak up damage. So I would honestly say choosing another skill that does damage is probably ideal. Or if you are very early on and you're struggling with the bleed mech, pick up healing touch and get it to level 5 so it removes one debuff. You're now able to move while using this skill, so it makes it very, very nice. And basically, you're gonna be hitting this skill when you see that bleed proc off, and you're just gonna feel so healthy. In my first run, this is what I used to be able to knock this boss out, just because the bleed was doing way too much damage. The recuperation just could not keep up. But as soon as I put on healing touch, it completely eclipsed it. You can still use your yellow potions to heal off the bleeds. It just, yellow potion can get expensive. We have it in our kit. We might as well. We have a spot for it, right? It's either to, hey, get more stagger damage or choose to be a little bit more sustainable, is what I would do. But yeah, I would choose one of these. Currently, I don't have either because I don't think that they're good for what I need right now, and where the game is at. I know where I was then, this would have been maybe not the best. I definitely would not be using Marchetan's Wrath. For sure, this is definitely a PvP skill. I would 100% either use Obliterate or Healing Touch, and go from there. So what I do use now, so since I'm not really doing a lot of 1v1 content that is involving me really needing a lot of stagger or just being able to focus on my own, sustain or like removing a debuff, since I already have that, I do run just Power of the Storm in PvE content. So that's just something to consider. Like, that's why I don't have these two. It's just, I don't feel like it's necessary. It's a lot better to give my team extra combat speed, skill cooldowns, And I really love that we are actually getting a minus 30-second cooldown, because this could actually be a very strong skill within PvP. Again, being able to get an extra 200 accuracy, 200 crit, 20% attack for probably upwards of like 20-30 seconds would be massive. In a fight, it's kind of like we don't really have a lot of buffs. We have these like blanket buffs and they do great, but for instance, like Glad has some very strong buffs, and this could be what that is for us right here in terms of Power of the Storm and being able to play around that. Last thing I'll mention, something that does help out a lot when you're fighting these bosses is you want to be able to heal and do damage, right? So one of the things that I've added on here with my Gust Rampage is I do the multi-hit because I want to maximize as much damage as I'm hitting, and I have 10% of damage absorption, just so that I can focus in when, hey, that boss is down, I can focus in on doing as much damage and know I'm going to heal up through it. You can change this to a mobile skill so that you can always make sure you're getting the back attacks. I think it matters to a certain degree, but I just think that this is a little bit more impactful. If you set yourself up in a way and you set it up where you know that you're going to be on his backside to break, you shouldn't have to use the mobile skill. And that's just kind of like planning around when you know that boss is going to get staggered, and being able to go that way. So that's kind of it in terms of the skills. Hopefully this helps you guys out. And helps you guys, just be able to knock out Zikeals. He's not a hard boss at all, guys. Trust, just play Dark Souls, dodge his mechanics, and I promise you will be fine. And like I said, focus on making sure that you are getting movement, because that is what is going to help. I had no issues fighting this boss until his mechanic. So really respect that mechanic. And I would say one thing that is going to help is running food. So I went ahead and I was using the Artesian Wind Breeze special juice when I originally beat this for the extra stamina regen. I did end up using the Lollipop for the extra movement speed. And then I also used things like, the max stamina, just so that I could maximize as much like speed as possible. The issue that I noticed wasn't damage. The issue was whether or not I can get to the other side of the map so that I don't die to the mech. So once again, sorry about the quality of the last video. Hopefully this provides what that was missing, and is definitely just better quality. Once again, highly apologize for that. I definitely plan to not do that whatsoever in the future. I will be coming out with a guide just on where my build's at right now, and just talking a little bit about the update, some of our buffs, what kind of happened to us. But I wanted to make sure I got this video out to you guys. So go out there, go knock out Zikeals. I believe in y'all. Peace.